I was online, like most people, always online, came across a Business Insider article about Jazmen Jafar, who is an attorney
Okay.
and left, or I wouldn't say left the practice of law. I mean, we need to ask her about that. Did she leave it? Is she still practicing? But she started her OnlyFans page.
Okay.
And she has been gaining a lot of followers on her OnlyFans page and making a pretty good living doing it, most importantly.
I read that article and I got a ton of questions. I mean, this is going to be really interesting, because, most times lawyers, we're kind of looked at as sometimes a little, I hate to say a little uptight, but, this is definitely breaks the mold, I think, for our profession. And so I think that your listeners would definitely love to hear what she has to say and, kind of hear, her version of how this all, came about.
Jazmen, how are you doing?
I am doing great, and I'm really excited to be here and ask away.
Well, I guess our first question is, how did you get started with OnlyFans and what made you want to make that jump?
For sure. So I'm going to be honest, I never expected this. Like if 2 years ago or 3 years ago, somebody told me that this would be my life today, I would not have believed them. We do have a running joke with me and my friends from law school that nobody would have expected this. But if there was a most likely to award in our law school, like most likely to start an OnlyFans page and leave her job, I would have won it. So there's that. But I actually didn't have any social media prior to starting my OnlyFans page. I wasn't on Instagram. I didn't even have a Facebook. Like I was completely off the internet. And as I was getting closer and closer to graduation, I love school and I love learning. And I'm so happy. People ask me all the time, well, do you regret your degree? Not at all. And we can get into that if you guys have more questions about it. But it was right after, I was studying for the bar. So I graduated. And I always knew that I like the law and I like learning, but I don't want to work like a normal 9 to 5 or be in a firm or do litigation or anything. I just didn't want that for the rest of my life. But I was like, well, you're just being spoiled. Like that's life. You got to go to work and you just did all this, went through all this school. Like, you can't just sit there and be like, well, I don't actually want to do anything.
Sounds like you, Richard.
You're right.
So, and I never expected. So I was, studying for the bar and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start an OnlyFans page. Like, why not? Like maybe I can make a little extra money, and then take the bar before I start working. And I think even subconsciously in my mind, I was like, it'd be cool if like I could even put off having to start working. Like I could wait for the bar results and then kind of like, and a big part of me going to law school is my background. My mom's an attorney. My sister's an attorney. All my cousins are attorneys. My parents are immigrants from Iran. So in our culture, it's very normal that our parents are kind of like, all right, lawyer, doctor, engineer. What do you want to be? And like my dad's an engineer. My mom's a lawyer. I am book smart. I lack many other forms of intelligence, but when it comes to school and standardized tests, I'm pretty good at it. So I was like, okay, this isn't going to be too hard. Whatever, let me just do it. But I was like, I know this isn't what I want to do with my life, but I just went through the motions and I did it. And this was the first time that I was like, maybe like, let me just try this. And then, it was also around the pandemic time. So I was like, then, if my parents asked me like, are you applying? Are you doing this? And I was putting all that off. I could be like, oh, it's the pandemic, and be able to like make this little money on the side. And so I did, and I started it and it took off fairly quickly. So I was like, oh, okay. And I wasn't even looking for a job, but a job kind of fell into my lap. I got hired on the spot. And I remember I called my sister and I said, I don't want to take this job. She knew at the time. And she's like, are you dumb? Like, just take the job, just do both, like whatever. What are you gonna do? Just not do law and do OnlyFans? Like I'm like, yeah, you're right, that's crazy. Like, come on. And so I was like, all right. So I started doing like the double life. I was at the firm, normal business hours, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends and after work, I would be shooting content for my OnlyFans. And that's kind of how it got started. And then eventually I was like, I have no reason. All the reasons that were keeping me at the firm were not good reasons. So I left the firm and now I do content creation full time. To answer your question earlier, my license is still active, but I'm not actively really doing any legal work at the moment.
Jazmen, when you were kind of, balancing working at the firm and, your content creation, were you ever kind of nervous or scared that your coworkers might see this and what their reactions may be?
All the time, all the time. So I had this like joke in my, like, every time my boss, the partner, would like call me into the firm or into her office, I was like, is she going to talk to me about how I'm not meeting my billables? Or is she gonna be like, I found out about your OnlyFans? I was like, it's one of the two. And I never knew which one. It was no way to live. And it would just be, some days I felt like, oh no, they're never going to find out. And the other days I'd be like, I'd have that anxiety. So yes, I was nervous for sure.
How did you come up with the name Jazmen Jafar? What was the motivation behind the creation of that name?
Yeah, so my sister actually came up with it. I was just looking for a name. I'm Middle Eastern, so I wanted like a little Middle Eastern touch to my name. And she came up with it and I just liked it. I think it looks cool. I think it sounds cool. I think it's really easy to say. My real last name is very difficult to pronounce and it would never be a name that people would want to use, and it's not sexy, but I was like, I like this. I'm going to go with it.
I thought it was kind of like the Disney character.
That's what I thought too.
Like the Jasmine, but then like the
Yeah.
evil Jafar. It's
Yeah.
like both worlds.
Exactly. That was part of it. That was my sister, who's also an attorney. She actually always comes up with, like, I actually want to start a podcast too, and she came up with the name Thoughts with Thoughts, and I'm like, she's killing it. I
Good
actually
play on
literally
words
was
there.
on a live stream and I told people, whoever can think of a good name will get a free month on my OnlyFans. And everyone was coming up with these names, and then I told my sister about it, and she came up with that. I was like, "Do you want a free month?" She's like, "No." I'm good.
Your family are immigrants, mostly lawyers.
Yeah.
We're in Texas. Texas is like very conservative. Most families in Texas like are conservative. How was like the reaction like from your family when you decided to do this?
So it was not good, and I didn't expect it to be good. But I had done everything right that my parents had wanted for so long. And I was even shocked myself. Me and my dad are super close, and my mom already knew. Now my dad knew, and he called me, and he just like was like, we're so disappointed in you, blah blah blah. And he's like, but if you just stop now, it's okay. Just stop now. And everything in me was like, no. And I said that. I was like, no. And it was shocking to them because they're like, what do you mean no? And I'm like, no. Because I just realized, like, I have to live my life for me. I'm the only person that that's going to wake up with me and go to sleep with me every day for the rest of my life. It's not my parents. It's not society. It's not anybody else. It's me. And so I'm like, look, I love my parents, but I have to live a life conducive to my own happiness. And that doesn't necessarily align with their vision. I don't have those same values, and that's okay. And so I had to let things kind of blow up. And I am very close with my family, and I know they love me so much. So I knew that eventually they would come around, like they weren't gonna like never talk to me again. So now everything's fine. It's kind of like a don't ask, don't tell kind of policy. But I'm still very close with both of them. But for a while there, and I get it, they were just trying different things to try to get me to stop. They tried not talking to me. They tried threatening me. They tried different things. And then once they got to the point where they were like, she's going to do what she's going to do, it is what it is. And I get a lot of messages from people from similar backgrounds that are like, hey, I'm scared. I don't know how to tell my parents this. I don't know how to break that, go away from that traditional path that my parents expect of me. How did you do it? And I'm like, you gotta just let shit blow up and then see where the pieces fall. That's your option. If you choose your comfort, then nothing's going to change and you're going to be living the life that you clearly don't want to live.
So Jazmen, there's a certain stigma that sometimes rolls around with people who say, hey, I'm an OnlyFans content creator. And some people are like, they kind of have this preconceived notion of what it is. To those people out there that think that it's a negative thing, what would your response to that be? If someone came up to you and said, I think what you're doing is horrible, and they give you all these bad, personal reasons why.
I do online. Don't worry, I get the.
Yeah. So what's your response to that? Why should people not feel a particular way about being an OnlyFans content creator?
So I actually like when people kind of, as long as I like to use those comments as a way to spark discussion about it. Because why is it negative? Tell me why. Okay, you think it's a negative thing. I don't. What is it? Why is it immoral? And then when you start really digging in, these conversations, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like they don't have a good reason, or, you know, it's an appeal to an authority or some type of, you know, religion that they follow, which is totally fine, but I don't subscribe to that. So, you know, I don't, those comments do not get to me. I'm still a lawyer, so I do like debating. I want to battle it out in the marketplace of ideas. So when I get those kind of comments, that's one of the things I hope to do with my platform, is to talk about stuff like this. All right, well, what's wrong with OnlyFans? What's wrong with sex work? Why is sex work not work like any other type of labor? And those type of comments are really great, because that is what a lot of people think. And that is a narrative that that a lot of people follow. And if it takes people like me, or I mean anybody, to kind of challenge that narrative, and that's what I like.
They call it like sex work, but when you look up like cases and stuff, it's like protected by the First Amendment. It's like protected speech. Like what you're creating is a form of expression.
Art, yeah.
Right? Art. At least that's the way the courts interpret it,
I mean,
right?
it might fall into the obscenity, you know. It's a weird area, right? Online, and I guess the porn industry, and OnlyFans isn't all that. I know that it's known for being just this like kind of like explicit site, but there are people that like click on OnlyFans. Like,
Sure.
It's not automatically explicit, but yeah, I agree with you. It is just a form of expression that, you know, some people's OnlyFans pages, not mine, are very like artistic. Like it's like, oh wow, like it's actually pretty and it's like aesthetically pleasing. I don't remember if this is like throwback from law school when we were reading the obscenity cases, and is like, you know it when you see it.
You
like,
know it when you see it. Yeah, everyone knows that.
Everyone knows that line.
If you've been in law school, you know that one for sure. Yeah. So Jazmen, so this all came about when you kind of went viral, was because it was a Business Insider article that kind of took off like wildfire. And I know that, you know, Ef'n and I, we saw it on the Texas Lawyers Facebook, group page. And that's how we first, were able to see, what was going on. How did that even happen? I mean, how did you even get to Business Insider? How did this come about?
Yeah, so after I left my firm, I just started being very vocal about before that, I was, just playing my role as an OnlyFans model. But once I left my firm and I realized, like, I want to show people that, be an example of what it means to break those stereotypes when it comes to sex work. So many people see it as something people do as a last resort. So many people see it as something people do when they have no other talent, when they're not smart, whatever. And I'm like, wait a second, this isn't true. And I'm an example of that. So I started being very vocal about being a lawyer who also does OnlyFans. And that started picking up a little bit of traction. And how that article came about is I almost never check my Twitter DMs. And that day I decided to go check my Twitter DMs, and there was a reporter for Business Insider that DM'd me. And she was like, hey, I heard that you are a lawyer and you left your job in order to pursue your OnlyFans career. That's really cool. And she had done a couple other stories on like nurses or teachers that did OnlyFans as well. And she's like, do you mind if I interview you for an article? And I said, oh, I didn't think anything would really come of it. Like, I was just so like, okay, sure, tomorrow works, whatever. And then she interviewed me, and then like, I think it was a Sunday or a Monday. She was in the UK, and she just messaged me and she's like, oh, the article's out, by the way. And I remember I like woke up and I was like, okay, whatever. Went to bed. And then once I actually woke up, I realized that it was getting a ton of traction. So that's how that happened. And it was picked up by Yahoo. It was picked up by other news outlets. And I was like, cool, it's how you guys reached out to me and some other really cool people. So I'm really excited to kind of be able to share more of this story in different mediums.
Did you see your subscribers jump dramatically and post article?
Yeah. I mean, if you guys want to know, like, I made about 70 grand in 2 days.
Wow.
From the traction from that one article. So that was crazy. Like, I remember I didn't even put it together at first. So I went and I opened my OnlyFans and I was like, did something go viral? I was like, did a TikTok go viral? Did a reel go viral? And I checked, I was like, nothing. I was like, is it from that article? And then I realized when I was looking at my messages on OnlyFans, like, oh, I found you from this article. And it was so much overwhelming support, which was so nice. Like, it was just like, hey, I think what you're doing is really cool. I have a lot of subscribers that come from backgrounds where I have a lot of lawyers that follow me on OnlyFans, and I think it's the messages are so heartwarming, or even people that are older attorneys that are like, I think it's really cool because back in my day, you wouldn't see something like this. And it's so great to see how far we've come that you're able to make a choice like this and be open about it. And
Like Jazmen, you're like so many like lawyers, like heroes, because like we've joined the legal profession thinking it was going to be one thing and it's something else. And you're like hating it every single day. and you're like, I wish I was doing something else. So then when people saw your article and it was posted on Texas Lawyers, people are like, how much is she making? I want to do that. I want to do that because I hate practicing law. So you became like...
Yeah, people don't know that, not to say everybody, but being a lawyer is amongst the most unhappiest professions. I mean, we've seen that come out and over. I think there was even one a few months ago, it's like lawyers and bankers were like at the bottom. And this isn't the case for everybody in every type of industry that they're in, but like that dream that they sell us in law school, you go big law, whatever. It's like, I never wanted that. Like I have some friends in big law that like none of us see them anymore.
Yeah, it's just like you become like a drone to the billable hours, you know, and it just, I can see I could just like
you
suck
have to
the
have a
life out of you.
specific personality and to enjoy that. And I knew that was not my personality. I knew it wasn't for me. My sister, on the other hand, she's doing it. She loves it. So I think it's different for everybody. But a lot of us, like you said, we don't expect that going into law school. But I knew about it because of my mom. And I would see her growing up and she would come home really late. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, you know, but I was like, all right, I guess it's just, you know, and even when it comes to that, I would like, my mom was like, well, you have to do it for a few years. You have to do it for this. And then you can like, now she has her own practice, whatever. And I'm like, I don't even want to do it for like, I just don't want to do it. I was like,
gotcha.
If is a vehicle for me to get out of this, I will take it. And I never expected it to be something like OnlyFans, but I'm so happy that it happened. And I took that risk and I didn't let anybody's opinions deter me. People used to say like, well, what are you going to do in 10 years? I'm like, if I don't do this, I'll be in this office in 10 years or a different office in 10 years. And I definitely don't want that.
Do you think your legal like education, it gave you a leg up with OnlyFans in any way?
I think my legal education gave me a leg up in life, right? I mean, we've all heard that law school doesn't really teach you the law, it teaches you how to think. And I think that's really true. And yeah, I have a unique story because of it, which kind of sets me apart from other creators. And two, yeah, I think that I'm more aware of different, there's a lot of girls that enter this industry that are a lot younger. I'm 28, but you know, they come into it 19, 20. They don't really know how things work, especially if they start making a ton of money. They don't know how to manage. There's all these management agencies that come in that become very predatory and try to take advantage of those creators. And I wasn't really susceptible to any of that. And I think part of that was because of my background.
Have you ever thought about, you know, using your legal education, your bar license to represent other OnlyFans creators in, you know, kind of navigating through those hurdles that you just talked about, or if they're trying to maybe create like a personal brand or something, you know, would you want to be like the OnlyFans lawyer, you know, the one that gets it done?
Yes. If I was to ever go back into the legal, that is the only thing I want to do. I would love to do that because I've been a victim of it. Even right now, I'm kind of thinking about whether I want to pursue, like, you know, file a John Doe suit against somebody that like a specific person that's like trying to harass me on these platforms, leak my content, etc. And all of that, like even just sharing my knowledge online, like being kind of an advocate or just give information like, hey, here are your rights. Here is what you should look for in a contract. A lot of these contracts that they're scaring you with aren't even enforceable. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you know, I have had, because, you know, people know I'm a lawyer. So sometimes I've had girls like call me like freaking out, being like, they're saying this and this because I signed this. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're fine. Just, you know.
So I didn't know that there was that much legal work to be done. I thought you just kind of, you create an account and you kind of start posting things, but it looks like there's actually a lot more going on than just that. Can you kind of tell us, you know, what it all kind of entails?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, there's obviously the DMCA takedowns. There are companies that a lot of us just pay like a monthly fee to, and they handle those takedowns for you. They kind of scan the internet for your username and leaks, etc. There are a lot of management or agency companies that come in, take a percentage, and obviously there's contracts signed and there's issues there. I think it's really interesting because now, the law is kind of catching up with the internet and all of this revenge porn, which is kind of like what I'm dealing with now, where like a user comes in and they, there's a lot of people that kind of the incel community or whatever that really hate women and women who make like money on OnlyFans, and they try to have these targeted attacks, steal their content, try to sell their content, which is kind of like what's going on with me. So there are a lot of issues, and the laws are catching up slowly but surely. I think this AI stuff is actually really interesting. I think California,
it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so I think there is going to be a lot more legal work to be done in an industry like this.
With more money comes more red tape, and with more red tape comes more lawyers. And they're right now, I don't know of anyone doing this type of work that's representing like OnlyFans people, or someone as knowledgeable as like someone like you that's actually gone through it and knows the.
I will say that it's very hard and that's what I think. I think me being able to say I've been in your shoes, I am one of you, because there is so much stigma in this. And a lot of girls that do this are embarrassed. They're ashamed. They don't even want to go talk to really a lawyer. They're private. There's, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to like go there and tell them and like, talk about what's going on. And I can definitely, and that's a big part of it. It's a big part of it. And this is a marginalized community. A lot of people don't have a lot of sympathy for sex workers. And just hearing someone be like, I understand how you feel. I'm sorry this is happening to you. Like, I remember even when like the first time something like that happened to me, and I was so upset, and just hearing one person say that. And I will say our community online as sex workers is like the most uplifting, positive, smart, welcoming group of women I have ever, and we're all online, like we don't even see each other in person, but because sometimes it feels like the whole world is against us, we do stick together. And so many of us just want to hear from another girl that's been in their shoes, that they know isn't going to judge them, and, all of that. So I would love to do that in the future.
Wow. And you know what? I'm going to say it, Richard. I have to say it. It is so like woman empowering. Like these OnlyFans women, like what you guys are doing, because it takes a very strong person, and it's like no guy is touching you. You have to be very comfortable like with your body, and you're just saying, you know what, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to see what happens. I think
exactly. And it is important, you set those boundaries with your subscribers and your fans. And I love OnlyFans subscribers are normal, just regular people. And a lot of them are really cool and really great. Like I love interacting with them. A lot of them are people that want to support OnlyFans stars, want to support creators, want to make sure that the type of content they're consuming is ethical, is consensual, everybody is over 18. OnlyFans as a platform has really created like a far more ethical way to consume this type of content rather than mainstream porn sites where there is a lot of there's more exploitation. You don't know if what you're watching is something that person doesn't want there. You don't even know if everyone's 18. Like OnlyFans has a really strict verification process. Like if I want to even bring anyone else onto my page, like they got to send in their ID, they got to sign a model release form. It's like a whole process.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I know. I thought it would be like easy, like hey, just come on in, and no,
not at all.
Wow.
I think it's a good thing. But yeah, I did have somebody on my page, and I was like, okay, like here's all your paperwork. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yep, you got this. Take a picture with your ID. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's kind of awkward. So it's not something you want to do with like every partner that you just meet, with a one night stand. But if somebody's willing to do it, I think that's great, because it does eliminate some of the issues that are apparent in the industry.
And so, I would venture to say that a lot of people's attention spans are kind of small. How do you come up with the content that you're going to present, and it's always ever changing and engaging, like what's kind of your creative process to like what you put out there? You know, what is it that what goes into that basically is my question.
Yeah, so it's really, you have like your bread and butter and the stuff that you love to do, and people love to see it. And then sometimes you just have it's like any other type of content creation. Like sometimes you're motivated and you have a ton of ideas. There are sometimes weeks I don't really want to film anything, and then I see one random mirror over there and I'm like, ooh, I could like do this or I could do that. And then you do like a really great shoot. You have good days and you have bad days, especially I think with OnlyFans, because we're like naked online and we're showing so much of our bodies. Like we're normal people. Like some days I just had a whole pizza by myself and I don't feel like I don't feel very sexy. But a great part of this is that you are your own boss and you're in charge of the content that you post. If there's a day I don't want to post anything, I won't post anything, and I'll wait until I feel a little bit better. I don't have to ask anyone for, time off. And you own your content and you choose what you put out. You put out what you're comfortable with, which I think is so important for women that are deciding to do this. If you don't want to, I have girls that are like, I know that are like, I don't feel comfortable posting this. Great, you don't post it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big part of that.
Where do you see OnlyFans going from here into the future? I mean, right now, so it's for content creation, but do you see the brand itself maybe branching out into something bigger as time continues to go and it gains more popularity?
So I think the OnlyFans model has changed the game. So we didn't have any. The problem is a lot of, which this is like also just really interesting and stuff I didn't know before, is banks and Apple and like, so I don't know if you know about the whole Tumblr thing. Tumblr used to allow explicit content. Apple threatened to take them off the App Store. They could no longer do that. So that's a big struggle for us, is how do we promote ourselves? These platforms don't want us there. I have a pretty big platform on Reddit. It's my favorite. And it's one of the only places that allows you to promote your OnlyFans. Can't do it on Instagram. All of us have gotten Instagram accounts banned. That's a whole other thing. Is, there's like a black market on how you can get your it's just crazy. TikTok, you get banned all the time. But that part of it is just, sorry, I totally forgot the question because I went on a tangent. What was the question?
I think it was something to the effect of where's OnlyFans going?
Where's
OnlyFans going? Yes. So I don't know if you guys remember, but in like October of 2021,
I think like Jazmen got real pissed off like over the whole like Tumblr thing. They're like, how many people are like,
thinking about it. I was like, where was I going with this? What I was going with it is that OnlyFans actually created a way for this to happen. And even when like in October of 2021, when they were saying we're going to take away all explicit content, that wasn't because they wanted to do it. That was because I think MasterCard and a couple other banks were like, we're going to stop working with you. And they brought it to the press, and there was so much backlash that they were able to reverse that decision. And I think the tides are turning. Public opinion is changing, and a lot of other companies are coming in. We have Fansly. OnlyFans is the biggest one, but this model is actually replicated across other platforms now. And so a lot of people are always like, well, what if OnlyFans goes down? What if OnlyFans goes down? I'm like, this model is not going to go anywhere, I don't think. Right. And it's only better and better, especially as public opinion shifts on this and we can get more of those rights. Like right now, sex workers aren't allowed on PayPal. Like PayPal won't process any payments for something like this. I would love to get that changed. And I hope we do eventually. So I do think we're headed in the right direction, and it's just going to get better.
It just seems like there's tons of censorship through all of these social media platforms.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
What do you mean that you can't promote yourself on like social media? What do you mean?
You're not allowed to on most of the mainstream platforms, Instagram, TikTok. You can't even have your OnlyFans link in your bio. On TikTok, you can't even link to an Instagram that has a link to like a beacon that has a link to an Only. Wow. They consider it sexual solicitation, which is against guidelines. But we're always like the group that they're like, no, we don't want you here. Even though like places like TikTok kind of came up because of OnlyFans girls and whatever. And then as soon as they get big enough, then they get that backlash. People are like, it's a kid's platform and I don't want to, and it's a group of people that they're very quick to cut because you're not going to get a big uproar. People aren't like, oh my God, the OnlyFans girls can't promote their OnlyFans anymore. A lot of people have that negative stigma towards us. And so, yeah, it is very difficult. You have to be very discreet about how you do it. Even on Reddit, which allows it, you're still at the mercy of the subreddit moderators that you post in. And some of them are like, they consider us sellers. And they're like, you can't post here. You have an OnlyFans, you can't post here. So we are definitely, it's hard. That's something I wasn't used to. I went from like a very respected profession, right? Being an attorney, to like the least respected profession, and having everything kind of be by the book in law, and then coming online and being like, oh, use a VPN, change this, get a new phone, trick the system, pay a Meta employee thousands of dollars to get your Instagram back. I'm like, oh my God, what is that?
You know what's crazy is like, and it kind of goes with what you're saying, that as this becomes more and more popular, you're almost surely going to see some type of like legislative backlash at some point in time where
for sure.
Some senator or some rep somewhere's like, hey, you know what, this is amoral. I'm filing a bill to, you know.
It's already happened.
Do you see yourself like getting out there and lobbying for the profession, you know, up there in DC and being the face?
It's so hard, and I'm so new to this. There's like a couple other sex workers I know that are so on top of this, and it's very hard for us to like unionize or anything, right? We're all on our internet, like somewhere else. A lot of us are anonymous. We don't go to like an OnlyFans headquarters and really like meet with each other. So it's really hard for us to really organize like that. But I would love it. And you're right. We are seeing a lot of that porn backlash right now. And that's why even Pornhub was taken off Instagram. Even though a lot of times like they didn't break any rules, or a lot of us don't even break any rules, and they kind of just ban us, you know. And they even wrote that open letter, and they're like, you know, like Kim Kardashian can post her ass on, and we're not saying she shouldn't be able to, but it's always the smaller, marginalized sex workers that get those consequences. And we do see that, and they frame it as like, oh, we're trying to protect people, right? Human trafficking and child pornography, and they put it under that. And so a lot of platforms are like, oh shit, we don't even want any mention of this kind of stuff, so ban, you know.
Wow.
Most people, like, when they talk about the whole like OnlyFans thing, they're like, all I need is a camera and a computer, and I'll start making. How hard is it? How hard was it for you?
It is a lot of it. Honestly, it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of time. Like, you're constantly thinking about, how do I boost engagement? You need to make the content, especially since I'm trying to kind of also branch out into other like podcasting, YouTube, etc., and maintain my OnlyFans page. It is a ton of work. And just even going through all these messages, interacting with your fans, the content you need for promotion is going to be different than the content you post on your page. It's going to be different than the content you put behind a paywall on your page. So there's like 10 different kinds of content that you need to constantly be on top of making, in addition to running your page and trying to grow. So it is a lot of work, but it's work that sometimes I don't feel like I'm even working, because I do enjoy it. Versus, you know, when the like 7 months I was working in an office, where I was like, oh.
Well, it just sounds like this is like you're running a legit business. I mean, you're a business, or you're an entrepreneur. You know, I mean, you're having to deal with, you know, the day-to-day grind of, you know, your engagement, your marketing. I think OnlyFans now, they're getting taxed, right, on all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we're 1099. We are independent contractors.
Why am I asking you?
Why are you asking me? I'm not.
I don't know. Why
you don't have a secret account? I'll follow you.
I just felt like you would know this.
She's right there, Richard.
I don't know.
So yeah, we are independent contractors. So, and this is another thing that a lot of girls that start OnlyFans that are really young, like, don't understand. Like, you know, they take 20%, we get 80%, and then we're taxed on that 80%. So yeah, I mean, and that's one of my friends is I think she's a CPA, and she actually wants to start a business doing taxes for OnlyFans girls, because that's another
cool
thing that, you know, in forums and stuff, people are like, hey, I don't know how to do my taxes. They're embarrassed even sometimes to like go to a CPA and be like, hey, this is what I do. Like, we can deduct like most random shit. Like here my that I spent on sex toys and lingerie. And
They're
you know
all
what?
business expenses.
These are business expenses, literally. And so having another sex worker, even in that role, there's so many roles for people that do sex work, like me. Like I'm a lawyer and I do this. She's a CPA and she does it. So we can take that and like help other girls on OnlyFans.
And then to think 10 years down the road where, just technology may be in general, we don't know with, like you said earlier, AI, and then there's, like virtual reality. Where is this going to go? I think that, like the sky's the limit at this point. It's kind of scary when you think about it.
It's super scary. Like, are we really talking to the real Jazmen Jafar?
It could be a hologram, man. I don't know.
Did you guys see that story? Like, it was like yesterday or today where like a mom got a call that seemed so realistic of her daughter and like some kidnapper that was asking her for money. But she's like, it was my daughter's voice and she was crying.
Oh, man.
And then she realized her daughter's in her room and the person was like, oh, give me 50 grand. And no, she's like, it was so real. And this person took her voice from like her Instagram or her Facebook and they made it so realistic. So I have no idea where all of that's going to go. I will say that there are people that are like, oh, AI is going to replace you guys. The reason OnlyFans is what it is, right? Like a lot of people are like, why is there OnlyFans successful when you can just watch porn for free? It's because people want that connection with a real person. The top OnlyFans creators are people that are Twitch streamers or are other social media personalities, because when people see your personality and they like you, then they come on and they want more of you. So
yeah, you just get fans in general, like, a social media star, you gain that personality. They know who you are, and then they just want to follow you on all platforms. I mean, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's definitely true of OnlyFans. And I didn't know any of that. So I would see like, who are these top OnlyFans stars? And they were all people who would stream, play video games, show their personality. And a lot of guys like that. I will even say me, like if I go through my messages, if people like see me on a podcast like this, or they see one of my longer YouTube videos breaking down something, they're always like, hey, I've been following you on Reddit or wherever for a while, but then I watched this and that's what I thought you were really cool. So that's why I'm here.
That's awesome. It's technology, man. It just it's amazing. It is crazy. Amazing.
And I guess the most important question: have you ever been to South Texas?
Maybe when I was young, not without my parents.
Did you ever go to spring break at South Padre Island?
I didn't. I was thinking of going to University of Texas for law school, though.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I checked it out, and I didn't choose to go there, but that was almost the move.
So if people want to subscribe to like some of your stuff, how can they find you?
Yeah, so if you just go to jazmenjafar.com, it'll take you to kind of all my links, my OnlyFans, my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube, my Twitch. So that's where you should go to find me everywhere.
I think we kind of covered.
I've got like crazy stuff I want to ask. But
Go for it.
Like, what's the most common like request video that you get from people?
So the most common thing on OnlyFans are dick rates. A lot of men want their dicks rated.
Really?
That is very
that was not going to be what I was going to think.
I wasn't like that. No.
That's very, very common is people want. So that's probably like, people subscribe. A lot of people subscribe. And the first thing is like, you have a little menu, like this is how much videos are. This is how much if you want custom content. This is how much if you want a text rating. If you want a topless video rating, it's this much. And a lot of times you get the subscription, then you get somebody that tipped you and they're like, rate my dick.
Wow.
I just would never have guessed that. Did you like when you first started, like were you already like immediately comfortable, like, seeing yourself and like, doing these things or taking these pictures, or did it take a little while for you to kind of like warm up to it and get comfortable with what was going on?
I think I have this, I still have this, like, because I wasn't on the internet much before, I almost think of it as like, oh, whatever, I can make it and I can put it on the internet and like, whatever, it's not in my face. I don't really care. So I actually don't even rewatch my videos because sometimes like, I'm like, oh, I feel like cringy, but you put it out and people like it. So I'm like, okay, like, I don't think I'm like, again, I don't feel like I'm violating my values, my ethics, anything like that. I don't find it immoral. So if I find it a little embarrassing, I'm like, that's okay. you know,
Sure.
whatever.
Do you even get to have a
People
social
like-
life these days? Because I'm sure people recognize you. Like, does that, does you being kind of like I guess like a social media personality and business entrepreneur, like, has that hindered your ability to like lead a normal life?
Not really. I think I've always been kind of introverted, so I stay home like most of the time. So that's probably why I don't have a social life, but I don't think it would impede my ability to have a social life. A lot of people are like, "Oh, does it affect your dating life?" Like literally not at all.
Cool.
Yeah, it's totally honestly the same as before, except I do have more. I can hang out with you on a Tuesday afternoon now.
Yeah, you cannot put a price on
I
personal
know,
freedom.
right?
You
I work
cannot.
2 hours a week and boom,
Well, that's
right?
great,
That's
man. I
freedom.
mean, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh, my life now, I love it. It's like, okay, I got a massage tomorrow. I gotta get my nails done. It's like a full-time job, just like my self-care and like beauty routine. And it's like, this is the life I used to always, like when I was younger, see like influencers kind of like living these lives. And but I just thought it was never something I could do. And here we are. Like I still sometimes wake up and I'm like, and at first when I quit my job and I started being really open about it, I would wake up like, what the fuck did you do?
Second guessing the decisions, right?
Imposter syndrome,
second
right?
guessing. Yeah. Oh, I definitely struggle with that. And I was, because, people are like, well, you went to law school and now like, you're going to have the stigma, no one's going to, people say that like, oh, people aren't going to hire you. I was like, well, the people that aren't going to hire me are places they don't want to work.
Mm-hmm.
Did this, but still there's like those moments where you wake up and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my life.
Like, you threw away this. I don't think throw away is the right word, but like you had this. But I will say, like, when my life was so stable and planned out and whatever, I hated the thought of the future. Like, I was like, oh, like, I feel like the rest of my life is going to be. I remember I literally went on a date like before I started OnlyFans. It was like before I was like a few months before graduation. I remember I told that guy, like, yeah, I think like my life is going to be over after I take the bar, because it's like I just am like counting down like my days before I'm like stuck in that basic office life and blah. And I never thought that I actually wouldn't, I cried when I took the bar after. Like everyone else so happy. And I was like, that was the last test I'm going to take because I don't mind tests. And I'm like, now I have to like do shit every day because I'm such a procrastinator. Like I, was chilling all year, especially once COVID hit and we were online. Like I would dodge cold calls. Like my camera, your teacher,
Yeah.
I would just not say anything and they'd assume I was in the bathroom. So I was like, I am out.
Well, I got to tell you, I really do admire your courage for taking that step and like just basically just saying like fuck you to the establishment and doing what makes
And
you
norms,
happy.
man. Norms.
Yeah, I mean
and,
that
like,
takes balls, and you got them. And my hat's off to you. I think that's great.
Thank you so much. You guys are great. And you don't know how much it means to me to have people like you guys support my decision. It's so great to have that support.
Like Jazmen, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
This has been an awesome conversation like with you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I love this. Thank you so much for having me. I think conversations like this are really important and I'm grateful you guys give me a platform.